why did you create hell? How is infinite punishment justice for a finite crime?
Why did you create hell? Well, hell was actually created for the devil and his angels, for those who rebelled, even in some might say, even in a worse way than the way humanity rebelled. But Jesus talks about in Matthew 25, I believe. Yeah. Okay, so Matthew 25, verse 41, when it talks about the sheep and the goats, verse 40, and the king will answer them, truly, I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters, you did for me. Then he will also say to those on the left, depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, you gave me nothing, all of this. And so he straight up says, like, it wasn't even made for us, but you're choosing the same path. You're choosing the same path as the devil. If you choose to reject God, if you choose to reject his ways, if you choose to deny him and not live according to the way that he's called us to live, and not live for him and not place your faith in him, then why should you be with him? Why should you enjoy his presence forever if you didn't want anything to do with it here and now and given the opportunity? So, quick side note. She mentioned eternal torment, and why is that better if you have no chance for redemption? The Bible's not exactly explicit on eternal torment being the thing. There are some places that seem to imply that maybe it's destruction, annihilationism, that there is torment for a time and then it ends at some point where there is actual destruction as the ultimate result of that. Or perhaps it's eternally ongoing. It says eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. Here at another point it says, fear the one who can destroy both body and soul in hell. That's in Matthew 11 or 10. So either way, whether it's eternal torment or torment that leads to annihilation and permanent destruction, permanent death, the idea that at some point you've crossed the line and you've gone past the point of no return, that there's no longer an opportunity. You had a chance and you chose not to. In Luke, I believe it's 13, the parable of Lazarus and the rich man, that's exactly the point that even Abraham's like, in this, Jesus is telling a parable, and he tells of a rich man and then a poor beggar named Lazarus, and they both die. And Lazarus, the poor beggar, ends up in paradise, and the rich man, who didn't use any of his resources to help this guy who's right outside his gates suffering, never offered anything to him and mistreated him, now finds himself in Hades, in eternal fire. And he sees across the chasm, Abraham with Lazarus, the beggar, in paradise. And he goes, Abraham, send this guy over with some water for me to quench my thirst. And he's like, nah, no one can cross either way. He's like, okay, great. Well, then send him back to my family so that they can be warned, so they don't end up here with me. And Abraham's like, nope, it doesn't work that way either. They have everything they need to know better. They have the law, the prophets, they have creation that screams at them that God exists and you should follow him. And if they're not going to listen to any of that, even if somebody comes back from the dead, they're not going to believe it. And even in that, Jesus is foretelling, like, look, even when I rise from the dead, people are still going to reject it. They did in the moment. They did, for decades and centuries after, and they still do today. Case in point. So anyway, at some point, you've crossed the point. You have the opportunity to believe now. Take it now. Don't keep waiting and then be like, well, how come I can't wait until I'm in hell to choose not to be there anymore? You have a chance now. Why are you looking for that? There's all sorts of ways that doesn't work. How come you don't get a second chance after you die? How come, if you don't believe in anything coming after life, how come you don't get a second chance after you die? Why is death the end of it? How is that fair or good or right? Oh wait, maybe it exists regardless of whether or not you like it. Because that's how reality works. It just is, whether you like it or not.